Hi, this is the Sports Show, and it's one of the biggest days in history of Denver, Colorado. I think it's bigger than when the flood happened and separated.
Was happier.
Separated Auraria, which was the bigger town. We would be the Auraria Broncos. Did you know that?
I'm glad we're not the Auraria.
Right by downtown, there was.
I didn't know this.
Auraria.
Were you living here
then? Yeah, I was covering the original minor league baseball team.
Yeah.
Owned by, I think, the great-great-grandfather of the Monforts, because they were so awful. But Auraria was the big city. That's where the Rocky Mountain News was on that side of the river. The Denver Post was on this side of the river. There was a big flood.
The Platte, I assume?
Yeah, there was a big flood, and it wiped out Auraria. And so the Rocky Mountain News moved over to the other side, and Auraria lost out in the battle to be the big city of Colorado.
Wow.
We want to start today's program. You know the Broncos won one of the greatest upsets in the history. And my new book is just out this morning, Super Broncos. You can go online to Amazon and buy it.
I thought I saw that book like 2 years ago.
Yes, don't tell anybody. It's up to date. It's got one page in it about yesterday's game. I'm pasting into every copy of it.
There you go.
There's going to be an updated version, I think. It's going to be called Super Broncos. This one's called Super Broncos from Elway to Tebow to Manning. So the new one's going to be called Super Broncos from Elway to Tebow to Manning to Osweiler back to Manning. It's going to be a big fold out.
Catchy title. I like it. You want to know the big stuff?
Mark Kiszla. Premier columnist of Colorado, a guy who got a one-on-one interview with Archie Manning, but after you got the one, I got a fist bump from him.
I heard you did. I didn't see it, but it was all the talk in the media room.
He leaned over about 6 people, and people thought he was and he was reaching right for me. I didn't get a one-on-one with anybody except Talib, and Talib told me, well, everybody's talking to Chris Harris Jr., I was talking to him, he said, homie, give me some love on TV tomorrow. So I'm giving you some love, Akib, on Around the Horn and on this show. And Mark Kiszla from the Denver Post, the columnist, headed to the Super Bowl. I'm Woody Paige from Parts Unknown. And we're going to spend the next hour talking about that game and other things in sports. And you won't want to miss it. We'll be joined by Troy Rink, but you're going to give us the big stuff.
The Broncos, as you may have heard, beat New England. And next up, San Francisco or Santa Clara or somewhere out there where they have seafood. Denver's defensive dominance discombobulates Tom Brady. Man, I'm a good reader. And the Carolina Panthers, I can't say formidable foe. Are they a formidable foe?
Peter King says, this morning writes, and I was helping Peter King. He said, where'd I go to the media room? I said, follow me, Peter.
Yeah.
So I was helping him out. Peter King says, greatest Super Bowl of all time.
This one?
I'd like to throw that into the program at some point, or right away. Do you think it's the greatest Super Bowl? Let's just start with that. Greatest Super Bowl of all time?
I think the storylines are very interesting that sets up to the idea that it could be the greatest Super Bowl of all time. You got 2 number 1 seeds. You got the Carolina Panthers with Cam Newton, dynamic young quarterback, against Peyton Manning, the old great quarterback. 2 great defenses, 2 teams that have a swagger to them, and 2 teams that have something very important in common that made it possible to get to where they are today. They both fired John Fox.
Ooh, that's a good point. Very good point. I've snuck up on me. I've got one. The number 1 defense in the league versus number 2 defense in the league.
That's good.
The new face of the NFL, would you agree with that?
Cam.
Versus the old face of the NFL. A guy that's trying to duplicate what John Elway did, win his last game and retire against a guy who, do you know this? Everybody listen quietly, or carefully.
Quietly.
Cam Newton can be the only player in history to win a junior college championship, an NCAA national championship, and a Super Bowl. Nobody's ever done that. Also won the Heisman Trophy and could be the MVP, will be the MVP this year. That would be a great framed copy of accomplishments.
Okay, and then what? Am I doing it the right year? Is it 2012 draft? It was. Or was that 11? Please, the number 1 and number 2 picks.
12. It was because Tebow was drafted in 11.
Okay.
The Bears.
Okay. Number 1 pick, Cam. Oh, no, and number 2 pick?
Von Miller.
Yeah, so I mean, you got a lot of cool storylines here.
Yeah, and so all time. I think when the New England Patriots were 17-0.
And they're playing the Giants, and that's pretty. That's pretty compelling.
I thought the Packers versus the Broncos. I think there have been some games, the Steelers and the Cowboys. So it has a chance to be one of the great games. But there have been some great games that you would look back on and say, "Whoa, St. Louis and Tennessee Titans." That didn't seem like it was going to be much of a game, and it ended on the last play with a guy trying to reach his hand over the goal. So first question of today. That's it, actually. But was that the greatest non-Super Bowl playoff victory by the Denver Broncos?
I thought it was the most compelling playoff game I've ever seen the Broncos play prior to a Super Bowl. I thought the win in Pittsburgh, where they held on and they beat the Steelers to go to that Super Bowl that got them the first win over Green Bay, the first championship. I thought that was a very interesting game. The drive. I thought this was better than the drive. I thought this was better than the fumble. I thought it was so good because at the end you had Tom Brady with not one, at least two, and depending on how you count, maybe three chances to take on the Denver defense, the number one defense in the league, and he's the greatest quarterback of his generation. I thought that was really compelling, great stuff.
We live in the moment. So we're sitting here today, and people have short memories, and they go, "Oh, man, it's the greatest of all time." You mentioned some of them. To me, the first one against the Steelers, the Steel Curtain, had won all the Super Bowls, won another one. They'd won 3 then. The Oakland Raiders, 20-17. I mean, it's hard to beat that. And Rob Lytle fumbling and the officials not calling it. You mentioned the Pittsburgh and the Steelers victories in the year they won the championship. I would say it's in the top 5. The drive. I mean, there's been about 6 or so. You and I have talked about it during the course of the playoffs. So who it was, the defending world champions, who it was at quarterback, the tight end, I think the greatest tight end we'll ever see in the NFL until somebody else comes along that's bigger and better than him. The play that it comes down to conversion, basically in the last play of the game.
On the drive that New England made, they complete 2 fourth down plays.
Yeah.
I mean, that's pretty good stuff. And then the Broncos hold on and win. Brady hit 23 times. Almost 12 more than he's ever been hit in a game. Am I reading that correctly?
Yeah, Philadelphia was 13, so it's 10.
So what happened there? How did the Broncos get so much pressure?
Oh, a few things. Von Miller, we've been talking about all year. Von Miller, and you and I were kidding about it. Peyton Manning won $2 million bonus for winning the game. He won what I would call lotto. Would that be fair? He won lotto yesterday. He got a $2 million bonus for starting and playing 70% of the plays. Wouldn't it have been funny if they'd have brought it out after 68% of the plays and put Brock in? But Von Miller won $100 million yesterday. He's now a $100 million player.
Because his contract.
He won Powerball. One guy won lotto, one guy won Mega Millions. Von Miller, talk about whatever he did in regular season or whatever he's ever done in the regular season. That was a game that he earned himself a long-term, big-time contract. And he came through. 2.5 sacks. He had 4 tackles. He had an interception of Tom Brady. When he's not a cover guy, he went back to just kind of help with Gronkowski and reacted to it. He had 4 hurries. On the other side, you had DeMarcus Ware with 7 hurries and a half a sack. Oh man, that was the game of the ages for those 2 bookend. And how did it happen? Wade Phillips was smart enough in this game to say, I'm just going to rush 4 guys.
Sometimes he only rushed 3.
I'm going to rush 4 guys or 3 guys on every play, and I'm just going to smother the wide receivers. And when I talked to him coming off the field, and we were talking about being old and decrepit, and I asked him about that, and he said the idea was we're going to double team Gronk as much as we possibly can.
And they
We're
did.
going to try.
Including on that 4th and 10 from the 50, they completed a 40-yard pass over two players.
He said he got us twice, but we got him a few times too.
True.
Edelman, they took care of. They kind of said, okay, if you can beat us with Bolden, if you can beat us with White out of the backfield, and they threw a lot to White, he was going to let that happen. This segment brought to you by John Elway Chevrolet. And thinking of John Elway, there was a happy man yesterday. The Broncos were kicking and screaming and stayed alive, went to the Super Bowl. John Elway Chevrolet on South Broadway is Chevrolet's best dealership in Colorado because it's the #1 volume dealer.
When you go to buy a car, what do you really want? You probably want a lot of cars to choose from. And you want the dealership's best price. Not some starting price or target price, the best price. And you want it immediately, not after hours of negotiating. And you want a salesperson who doesn't get paid more if you spend more. Because, well, you don't want to spend more. Well, you're in luck. John Elway wants all of those things too. Better yet, John Elway wants you to have all of those things too. Come see us or click on johnelwaychevrolet.com.
For our Players' Choice pizzas, we made the NFL players' favorite pizzas. Now you can eat like an NFL player.
If I can eat like a football player, I can talk like one, I can work out like one, I can even dress like one.
Look, you can eat the pizza. You just can't steal my shorts.
Up your game with any large specialty pizza, including Players' Choice pizzas. Only $12 each.
Better ingredients, better pizza.
Better football.
At the new papajohns.com.
Sports Show, Woody Paige, Mark Kiszla. Did the Determinators, Von Miller and DeMarcus Ware, scare Brady and the Pats' offensive line?
The offensive line we've talked about for the Denver Broncos all year was mediocre. It did a good job, I thought, of protecting.
Schofield's had a couple pretty good games, and I am obligated to say that because I've been tough on him.
And we now have a new leader in the clubhouse. The Patriots' offensive line is worse than the Broncos' offensive line. The Broncos lost 2 offensive left tackles, Ryan Clady and then Ty Sembrell. The Patriots lost their best offensive lineman, left tackle, a kid from Colorado. I'm spacing on his name.
I've spaced too, so keep rolling.
Okay, and Nate Solder.
Nate Solder.
Yeah,
Sorry,
Thank
Nate.
you, Dane. Yeah.
Way to go, Dane.
And they've gone through 13 or 14 different starting offensive line. It looked like it. Here's what I think they do with Brady. They scared the Patriots so much, and the Patriots never admit this. What did they do on the 2-point conversion? You just brought up Gronk. We talked about Gronk. When you go to Gronk, and if you look at the tape pretty carefully, he was kind of open in the end zone. He was getting a little spacing. But what did they do? They rolled out Tom Brady. They never do that. He's a pocket passer. They got him out of the pocket to give him some time. And what did he do? He went back across his body, tough throw, back across his body to Edelman, who was short of the goal line. And instead of going to Gronk, because he probably wasn't getting sight of Gronk rolling out like he was, and Talib told me that he had one-on-one coverage on him and that he was able to tip the ball, and Bradley Roby got the interception.
I can add a little bit to this conversation. I'm so happy. It's interesting to me. Gronk made the 4th and 10 catch for 40 yards to get him into the red zone. He made the touchdown catch on 4th down to put him in a position to tie. And then Talib said today that he is positive on the 2-point play that Brady's first read was to the running back, White. But Wade Phillips caught a blitz in that Chris Harris's job was to just make a beeline for White, the running back, so he can eliminate that throw. And Talib's like, man, he had to throw it somewhere, and he threw it at Edelman. So was Edelman his second read? He was going White, Edelman, and then Gronk? That makes no sense to me, Josh McDaniels. What the heck's up with that?
And the show I was on earlier, they were saying, well, he was covered pretty well, that you can't really tell him by the tape. He looked like he had just a buff, but he's bigger and taller.
On the
than
2 4th down plays in that drive for the big 40-yard gain and the touchdown, he was covered extremely well. Why would you not throw it to Gronk's back shoulder? I don't get
You've
that.
got the greatest, I'm not even going to argue it, Tom Brady has played in more Super Bowls and won as many as Joe Montana, played in 6, won 4. He's going to finish with better numbers than Peyton Manning. I think Tom Brady gagged. He gagged on that play.
He pulled a Manning?
That he basically gagged. I thought he had a terrible game. I thought Josh McDaniels called a bad game. Bill Belichick had a very bad game from the very beginning. They win the toss. They've deferred every time for the last 5 years, and they want to show the Broncos what they're made of. They elect to take the ball. Well, what happened?
Wasn't that the ultimate in Patriots arrogance there? Yeah. You're the number one defense. We always defer when we win the coin flip. But today, in your house, we're going to take the ball and we're going to score on you. Supposedly, Damian Stewart and T.J. Ward will play in the Super Bowl. How badly do the Broncos need those two safeties?
Oh, they need them. I mean, you were in a situation yesterday. I didn't realize it. They covered it up probably. Maybe you watched it. Chris Harris said he was moved to safety. Mm-hmm. They were running 3 safeties because they had 2 safeties in the game. They're off the street. One's a Twitter hero.
In dime, he was a safety.
And so he said he was learning on the run. And what he meant by that was he said they were showing him formations, coaches were on the sideline. And he said, I've never even practiced playing at safety. I'm a cornerback. But they moved over. That was kind of the in-game adjustments that the Broncos and Wade Phillips and his defensive staff made that we have not seen out of the offensive side of the ball. Because if there were any adjustments by the Broncos offensively, it was to go hide in your turtle shell and just not do anything in the second half.
Don't get started on that quite yet.
Yeah. But, well, we'll get into it at some point. But I thought that, once again, that they need them. Ward, with the sprain, that is kind of re-sprained, that he'll be okay. I'm a little more concerned about Damian Stewart, that with a sprained knee, of how well he's going to be in 2 weeks. You were out there today.
Stewart told Troy Rink, and Troy Rink will talk to about this, that heck yeah, he's playing in that game. We shall see.
Yep. Check out Rocky Mountain Men's Clinic, because sexual issues can be symptoms of more important and serious. Well, is there anything more important than your sexual life? Yes. Well, diabetes, strokes, heart attacks, high blood pressure, prostate issues, stress, obesity, and a variety of other health problems that can lead to not only sexual issues, but as I said, overall health problems. At Rocky Mountain Men's Clinic, they have a diagnostic ultrasound, testosterone, and PSA testing. And all of those are tests that you need in general. They're going to all determine your health and what you need going forward. And as I indicated over and over again, it's not just your sexual health, it's your total health situation. RockyMountainMen'sClinic.com, 720-440-7900.
Is a lack of intimacy at home starting to affect your performance on the course? There are many factors like high blood pressure, diabetes, and high cholesterol that may be contributing to your erectile dysfunction. Get back in the game with one visit to Rocky Mountain Men's Clinic, offering same-day solutions for all erectile dysfunction and premature issues. And you get to try the medications containing FDA ingredients right in their office. Let the providers at Rocky Mountain Men's Clinic help you get your confidence back. And be sure to ask about the $99 limited time special. Call today.
When you go to buy a car, what do you really want? You probably want a lot of cars to choose from. And you want the dealership's best price. Not some starting price or target price, the best price. And you want it immediately, not after hours of negotiating. And you want a salesperson who doesn't get paid more if you spend more. Because, well, you don't want to spend more. Well, you're in luck. John Elway wants all of those things too. Better yet, John Elway wants you to have all of those things too. Come see us or click on johnelwaychevrolet.com.
49-15, that's a pretty large margin of victory for the Panthers. This is the Sports Show with Mark Kiszla, Woody Paige. We'll talk about that. What makes the Panthers so good, or were the Cardinals so bad?
Well, the Cardinals, didn't they commit 7 turnovers?
Yeah, 6 by the quarterback.
You commit 7 turnovers in a game, and you're going to have trouble beating anybody. But the Panthers are a stout defense. It's a defense run by their linebackers and a shutdown corner. They obviously messed with Carson Palmer, a veteran quarterback, and blew up the Cardinals' offense. And then Cam Newton. I still think Cam Newton is not the textbook passer. But as you say, he's won a junior college championship. He's won a national championship at the college level. He's a winner. And as Gary Kubiak said today, you know what? We haven't faced anybody like Cam Newton, a true dual threat all this season.
Yeah, you get into it. I thought I didn't see him in junior college. I've seen a couple of tapes of him, and it was a joke. It was a joke.
Man among boys type of thing.
It was like an 8-man team playing Valor Christian.
Yeah.
That you've seen them, the baseball pitcher.
That just brings the heat, and the guys at the plate goes, "Ooh."
But in Auburn, the first time I really saw him, I thought he's a man among boys. He's just better than everybody else around him. At first, when he was with the Panthers, he couldn't quite figure it out, and there were a lot of questions about him. And then, I think what happened more than anything, he matured. Obviously, he got a little bit better. He got a better team around him. But third is, he started enjoying the game. I think he was pained for like 3 years of it was misery for him. And so to take the other side, the Cardinals didn't show up. That was the worst game I've seen on television. I didn't get to see a whole lot of it because we were writing at the time. Remember Jake Delhomme in a playoff game when John Fox was the coach, and he threw 5 touchdown passes, and it was like watching a train wreck, and you wanted to get him out of there? I've not seen anything like that. I have to go back to Craig Morton. I'm talking about games I've seen. Craig Morton in the Super Bowl against the Dallas Cowboys. Cam Newton, if you take Cam Newton off the Panthers, the Broncos can beat them. You put Cam Newton there, he makes a 10-point difference in a game.
Well, I'd just say one little thing and we'll get to the next question. But Cam Newton, this is the difference he makes. In almost every game that Von Miller plays, when he's on the field, he's the best athlete on the field. And Cam Newton out there for Carolina, I'm not sure that Von Miller is the match athletically for Cam Newton. So, Carolina's installed at a 3.5-point favorite, a 4.5-point favorite. Is that number sound right to you? Is that the right range? What's your early thought on that?
Well, Westgate, the book in Las Vegas that's run by a former Colorado State student, has the biggest line, 5.5. It opened at 5.5.
So that's our buddy Jay, right?
Yeah,
Jay Conahy?
Sure. Yeah, I'd like to get him on the show this week. Other places, another one of my friends at the Caesars Palace has installed them as 3.5-point favorites. The Panthers also are 4. 4 is not going to be a number. It's going to fall in the.
It's going to take the half.
I think it's going to end up being 6 or 7.
I agree with you.
And I think it's off. I think if I were going to be objective about this, I would make the Panthers a touchdown favorite. And if I were betting the Panthers, I'd feel good about it. But I think we saw on Sunday that the stories in ESPN were that money was still rolling in on the Patriots, rolling like floods. People opening briefcases and saying $100,000, $300,000 on the Patriots. And I think that works again in the Broncos' favor. They like being an underdog. They have now beaten 3 teams that were favored by them, one of them twice. Patriots, Cincinnati, and the Patriots all came in here as favorites. It's a neutral site. I think if that game yesterday had been in New England, the Broncos would have lost the game based on their offensive performance.
Agree.
I think a neutral site. I've talked to the governor today. He thinks, and talking about Hickenlooper, he gave me input. Well, you talked to Archie. I talked to the governor today.
Well, I think you can beat the snot out of me.
He called me and he said,
I'm hoping to get Kate Hudson on the phone, though.
Yeah. Hickenlooper said that he thought one of the biggest problems in the last Super Bowl the Broncos played is they didn't realize how important Seattle was to the Seahawks, the people.
Okay, gotcha.
And you and I agreed. John Fox said at the beginning of that game, I thought this was going to be a neutral site.
Yeah. What's with all the noise?
So Hickenlooper's impetus for saying that is he wants the Broncos to have send-off parties like Seattle had, where he wants the people of Denver to go out to San Francisco. He said this should be a Denver home game. Like he said, the most troubling thing about the Super Bowl in New York was a Seattle game.
Very good point.
So this sponsorship of this segment is John Elway Chevrolet on South Broadway. Chevrolets. My favorite car I ever had was a 65 Chevrolet Super Sport. You don't want a 60. Yeah, you'd like a 65 Super Sport.
It'd be worth
a
some
lot of
money now, man.
Go out and see the Chevrolets at John Elway Chevrolet on South Broadway, next to Black Eyed Pete.
When you go to buy a car, what do you really want? You probably want a lot of cars to choose from. And you want the dealership's best price. Not some starting price or target price, the best price. And you want it immediately, not after hours of negotiating. And you want a salesperson who doesn't get paid more if you spend more. Because, well, you don't want to spend more. Well, you're in luck. John Elway wants all of those things too. Better yet, John Elway wants you to have all of those things too. Come see us or click on johnelwaychevrolet.com.
I had a feeling you were on today because I saw Hugh last night in the. We have 3 guys that do trending now from the Denver Post. Joe's one of them. Also Hugh and Dan. I saw Hugh last night. He was enjoying the moment too much. I knew he was going to probably not even show up for work today. Dan, I just passed by.
Joe now knows you have the coolest job in the history of man. What do you
and Dan didn't wear one of his nicest shirts today, so I knew he wasn't on here. So that, and so tell everybody who you are.
So by default, I'm here. I'm Joe Wynn. I'm the online sports producer for the Denver Post.
What do you got for us? Trending. It has to be something. Somewhere in there is going to be about the Broncos, or are we going to go in another direction for a little bit?
Well, we are going to go in a little different direction. First things first, Avs are on a 4-game winning streak. Varley was named the player of the week in the NHL. I mean, I think since December 1st, the Avs have gone 17-7-2. Wow. I mean, has this team figured itself out since its start?
I was almost early in the season gave up on this team. But I thought there was a little chance that they could get rolling. Now they're definitely a far better than 50% chance of making the playoffs. Are they going to make noise in the playoffs? I'm not there yet, but they're going to make the playoffs.
One of our problems as columnists, we are opinion givers and opinion makers. And a beat writer has an entirely different job. He covers objectively a team, supposedly. And so Don Baylor, who was the original manager of the Colorado Rockies, said, Woody, one thing's wrong about you is you overreact. He said, we lose 3 games and you go, it's the end of the world. The world is coming to an end and the Mayan calendar is right. So we were both, and I think most people never went, it's not Varley. We wanted to trade him. We wanted to get rid of him. He's now, player of the week, player of the month. Mm-hmm. They made some changes. They made some significant, Varley got better. I think Patrick sat him down. The defense improved a little bit. They made moves with their lines. And I always go back and I tell you, you've heard me say it, when the old Avalanche put Forsberg and Sakic on the same line, that created a whole new dimension. Teams, because when you separated Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, the original, they weren't as strong as they were together. So I think what they've done with the first line, and I think Patrick is maturing a little bit, but he's still got his kind of Wild West, kind of take the goalie out kind of attitude. But yeah, they're on a great roll.
Absolutely. Cool. Going to another team out here, the Nuggets. Traditionally, they've been amazing at home. Home is like, no matter how bad they were always at least decent. But this year they're 9-14. Is it a lack of talent? Is it just a lack of chemistry, new coach?
They're winding up in an 8-game homestand. Their stated goal before the homestand, and they talked about it as a team, was let's win 6 out of 8. They've already lost 3, so they're not going to go 6-2. They got an inexperienced point guard. They don't have a lot of talent. They're installing a new system, and the city of Denver doesn't care about them anymore. In that regard, they've given away home court advantage. And I'll add one more thing. Brian Shaw got a lot of grief about not running at altitude. I like Mike Malone as a coach a lot. That dude don't run. He don't like to run. So if you were down on Shaw for not running at altitude, if you're fair, Woody Paige, you have to say, Mike Malone, why don't you run the ball at altitude?
I would just add, that was my big question about Malone before he came in. I said, he didn't run the ball in Sacramento.
No, he liked to play.
They promised. Oh, yeah.
Ground and pound.
I'm going to run. Don't worry. I know about altitude. Ryan Shaw didn't run. He's not running. You're not going to take advantage of altitude unless you run.
Yep.
So, Hey, we appreciate it. Thank you, Joe.
Thank you, guys.
And we'll see you later in the week, I hope.
Sounds good.
We're now going to take a news break with Molly Hughes, and we'll continue with Troy Wink. That's Winky Dink. Troy Rink will be here in just a moment. Wink.
Hello, I'm Molly Hughes in the Denver Post newsroom with news that low gas prices may finally have reached the tipping point in Colorado, revealing a downside to our state's economy. To the average consumer, it may be hard to find anything wrong with paying record low prices at the pump, but as one of the nation's biggest energy producers, the collapse in oil prices is unleashing primal fears that Colorado could be headed to a return of the mid-1980s, when the state suffered a major recession that left downtown office buildings vacant, triggered a failure of savings and loans, and drove thousands of people out of state for better employment opportunities. With oil prices dropping below $30 per barrel last week, adjusted prices are as low as they were 30 years ago. Now, they would have to drop to $22 per barrel to mirror the worst days of the 1980s. Still, though, the price drop from a high of $107 a barrel has been tough. Analysts are now estimating that 90% of production is operating at a loss. New drilling has come to a grinding halt in many cases, and thousands of jobs have been lost in businesses that support the oil fields worldwide. Analysts say that some of Colorado's biggest operators are in better condition to survive the industry slump because of where they drill and how long they've been here. But 4 of them are at the mercy of their creditors. And experts say Metro Denver's economy is also an up point. It's so healthy that for now, there should be room to absorb displaced energy workers. That's barring a wider economic downturn. Meantime, economists are saying the number of people employed in oil and gas along the Front Range last year actually increased 2.8%.
When you go to buy a car, what do you really want? You probably want a lot of cars to choose from. And you want the dealership's best price. Not some starting price or target price, the best price. And you want it immediately, not after hours of negotiating. And you want a salesperson who doesn't get paid more if you spend more. Because, well, you don't want to spend more. Well, you're in luck. John Elway wants all of those things too. Better yet, John Elway wants you to have all of those things too. Come see us or click on johnelwaychevrolet.com.
Sports show. We're like the Three Stooges. There's only 2 of us, but we're always joined by Ship, and that would be Troy Rink, who is tired. He had a long night and a successful one because I read his piece today. Did a great job. Troy Rink, the beat writer for the Denver Post and Man About Town. Troy, you're out there. Oh, that's right. You're out there.
He's at Dove Valley. He's always at Dove Valley, man.
Yeah, well, he's out at UC Health Event Center, or whatever it's called. On reflection, I mean, you've listened to Kubiak and everything. Give us a thought you have, because you went to bed as we did last night, and you kind of had some thoughts about the game. In the sunlight of the next day, and you are, what is the most amazing thing that stands out to you about yesterday's game?
I'd say 2 things, Woody. It's an interesting question. One, that Manning has had 2 games still in him, health-wise. Not necessarily performance, it's just that he's been able to answer the bell and stay through the 15 rounds. I wasn't sure if he could do that when these playoffs started. And secondly, Wade Phillips, and I know you've had your pulse on this from the beginning, Woody, with your relationship with Wade. Just his ability as a 69-year-old guy who was unemployed to connect with the defense in a way that has them playing with ferocity that I would argue, and you guys would know, the most since the 1977 Orange Crush team. I know in my time here in Colorado and writing professionally for 25 years, I have never seen a Denver team that was as nasty and a punch you in the face and built on defense. So my removal from it is, wow, this defense really was as special as we thought it was early. And Peyton Manning is finding a way, scratching and clawing to finish this thing the right way.
That's what I want to ask you about, because I did talk to Archie Manning last night, and he said in November he was pretty uncertain about Peyton ever being able to play football again with that foot. Has Peyton exceeded your expectations? Because he's exceeded my expectations.
He has, in the terms of the 2 things he's exceeded my expectations, Kiz. One is an ability to play under center these last 2 games, which I wasn't sure. I mean, we always say, oh, he can do it. He couldn't do it early in the year. He was horribly uncomfortable, but they're running the football and he's able to do that. Secondly, his humility in dealing with this situation. Then he got benched against San Diego. And Kubiak was masterful in not losing him throughout the process. I'm sure there were some hurt feelings that this wasn't as smoothly as it's being portrayed. But the fact that Manning removed himself from the equation, and he said in these press conferences, and to probably both of you privately, he recognized he could win a championship with this defense. And he literally put his ego aside. And that is impressive given the nature of his resume and his role on this team, which is dramatically marginalized.
One of the most poignant moments and Troy, you've been doing it for a long, long time. Mark, even longer than you, and me longer than both of you. And the great moments in sports are John Elway and Pat Bowlen. Both of you saw last night, because Troy and I were next to each other. I know you were in another place. We stopped what we were doing and watched a moment last night that was very poignant. And I'd like to get your feelings as you watch Peyton walk across the field with his family.
Yeah, at that point I was searching for a lead. I had my stories pretty much done. You know how it is on deadline sometimes, guys, where you're kind of waiting for that trigger, that moment. And I looked down and I saw that familiar walk. And I'm like, I'm pretty sure that's Peyton walking out. And so I grabbed my binoculars, since I have about 2400 vision, even with context. So I looked down, I'm like, wow, that's Peyton. It's Archie. And it was like a scene from a movie where he's walking out slowly and he gets to the end zone. He picks up the 2 pieces of confetti or a little bit of a ham, looks at him, turns and stares at the scoreboard where it says next game Super Bowl 50. Then at that point he turned around and Cooper snapped a shot of him with the scoreboard in the background. I was like, wow. I'm not very smart, but I think I just saw my lead, and it was cool. And, my kids play sports. My dad coached me. I can't even imagine what it's like to have it happen at that level where you're one of the greatest of all times and have a chance to write a script. I mean, when my kids succeed in a sophomore basketball game, it's emotional at times. So what a really cool moment for Peyton to just stop and say, you know what? I'm going to soak this in, because this might have been his last game in Denver, as we all kind of expect.
Yeah, it was funny. I just want to add, and we'll get Mark's response, because he did spend time with Archie last night. But there are a few things that I'll make. It was almost like one of those Peyton, Eli, Archie kind of commercials that we see, like that it had been produced to do that they wanted people to see, but the place was empty except for a few slugs like us sitting in the press box. And secondly, I thought, boy, I'd love to have a picture of that. They have a picture of it. The family has a picture because Cooper took a picture of it. The third thing I want to bring up is that Peyton brought his son. He has kind of tried to keep his twin kids out of the limelight. Occasionally he'd bring them to practice or something. He has his son with him on the podium. And I thought at that moment, the last time I saw the kids really was last year, crying, bawling, after they lost to the Indianapolis
And I remember
Colts.
that when Marshall was up there at the podium in victory.
So I just wanted to add that, and I'm sure you've got your own moments that you would like to add to that.
Archie told me he got up Sunday morning, he turned to his family members and said, hey, you know what? No matter what happens today against the Patriots, this has been one heck of a rodeo. And I was like, wow. I'm not very smart either, Troy, as you well know. But the scene you describe, what Woody describes, what I'm hearing, everything I'm hearing in the last 2 weeks is this is the last game for Peyton Manning, the Super Bowl. And I'll be shocked if it's not. It will be very hard for him to walk away, but it feels like the last game to me.
Yeah, I have a funny anecdote too that I wasn't able to make print with. It just didn't have a spot in my story. But last night in the suite, you had most of the Manning family. Brandon Stokely was there as his friend, and Todd Helton was also there. And Helton was there in the previous game. Helton flew out the same friend that was at the AFC Championship 2 years ago because he's so superstitious. This guy, he just calls him up and says, "You're coming to the game," and that's how much it meant to him to help push Peyton over the top. Is that go find the guy that was with him at the last AFC Championship game in Denver. So it is really cool how these moments kind of resonate and intersect with those two for me, because I saw Helton go out that way, and you said, Mark, like it would surprise you if it were Manning would keep playing. And the same was with me with Helton. As I watched him in batting practice go up and talk to ushers, I watched him go talk to a teammate he had never talked to. You know, you could just see they recognized finally as the last to know that, hey, I think this is it, and I want to have some memories that I can reflect back on.
Final question for me. On the field, and I went down there and I just stood off the side, and the players were enjoying themselves. They were bringing some of their family members out on the field. The confetti happened, the presentation with Jim Nantz. Went in the locker room, saw a very subdued locker room. This didn't seem like a team to me that had accomplished its goal. I wonder what the two of you, how you would respond to that.
I couldn't agree more. And I was surprised at how little, I mean, they were yelling behind closed doors for a little bit before we were allowed in. We're not a paid partner, so we're not privy to that until it's posted by a paid partner, apparently. But so we weren't allowed in for the original yelling and screaming. But they were subdued, and I actually saw that as, wow, this is already starting from this moment that they're doing exactly the opposite of what John Fox, his team did. It's the Bart Simpson strategy. Whatever Bart does, do the opposite. When they prepare for the Super Bowl, just look at the last itinerary and do the exact opposite every way. And that's how I saw it, Woody, is that they said this was just another step. And I think that's a very good sign.
And last thing before we let you go, you and I both listened to DeMarcus Ware today at Dove Valley headquarters, and tell our viewers his message to the team last night and his message going forward about going to the Super Bowl.
Yeah, Saturday night, the team, he gathers them up, and Gary Kubiak picks a guy to speak. At one point, it was Brock Osweiler, and before his debut in Chicago, he picks different players. DeMarcus Ware found inspiration through iron sharpens iron. And when I talked to guys about that speech, Talib said today it gave him goosebumps. And TJ Ward was saying that he would hope that he would almost deliver the same speech on Sunday morning. But Ware is seen, and I don't want to say Ray Lewis, but he is seen in reverence by this team, especially the guys on defense. His message to them, hey, I've played 11 years, 9 Pro Bowls. I've never sniffed this. You know, don't forget where we are, and don't forget, you know, literally the eyes on that prize. And Ware's message really resonated with players. Von Miller, Talib, TJ Ward. And again, and the fact that they're underdogs in this game, I just think it really plays into the Broncos' favor. Now, whether they're good enough, I don't know yet. I got to keep digging on some numbers here, Woody and Kiz. But they are an underdog, and they are going to be completely different. They are the Seahawks of 2 years ago. That's why I think they have a chance. They have the number 1 ranked defense that always plays better in these big games than having the number 1 ranked offense.
Troy Rigg from the Denver Post, we appreciate it. That was great insight, and I just want to add, a guy wrote me this morning. He said, I read every story in the Denver Post today, and not one of you ever mentioned Brock Osweiler. Well, Troy just mentioned Brock Osweiler in passing. So Brock's become kind of the forgotten man.
So we're good.
Thanks, Troy.
You're welcome.
Live guest appear, like Troy, appear courtesy of Papa John's. The day after every Broncos win, hello. After every Broncos win, this may be your last chance of the year. Get 50% off the regular menu price. You go online. Do what Hugh and I like to do. You can build your own pizza, have some fun with it. It's like building Lincoln Logs. Use the promo code Broncos at thenewpapajohns.com.
For our Players' Choice Pizzas, we made the NFL players' favorite pizzas. Now you can eat like an NFL player.
If I can eat like a football player, I can talk like one. I can work out like one. I can even dress like one.
Look, you can eat the pizza. You just can't steal my shorts.
Up your game with any large specialty pizza, including Players' Choice Pizzas. Only $12 each.
Better ingredients, better pizza.
Better football.
At thenewpapajohns.com.
When you go to buy a car, what do you really want? You probably want a lot of cars to choose from. And you want the dealership's best price. Not some starting price or target price, the best price. And you want it immediately, not after hours of negotiating. And you want a salesperson who doesn't get paid more if you spend more. Because, well, you don't want to spend more. Well, you're in luck. John Elway wants all of those things too. Better yet, John Elway wants you to have all of those things too. Come see us or click on johnelwaychevrolet.com.
Boy, I've been waiting all year. The Spurs and the Warriors, this first of four on the floor. Warriors and Spurs finally play their first game. Tim Duncan's out in Oakland. Is this, I forget who you got. You could add that in there, but is Greg Popovich playing another mind game with the Warriors?
Yes, he is. Yes, he is. Greg Popovich doesn't want to show all of his cards, and he wants to say, we can play you. We're not scared of you. We can rest Timmy Duncan. We don't need Timmy Duncan to play you. The Warriors are the team advertised. They're going for 70 wins, 71 wins, set their all-time record. They're the defending champs. I'm telling you. Just as I told the Patriots fans 2 months ago that the Patriots weren't winning the Super Bowl, the Warriors are not winning the NBA championship.
I'm not so
certain. I got the Warriors in this game, but I got the Spurs in the long term.
I'm not certain you're right. I think the Warriors are equipped to. They could win the championship again. They did it last year. I think the Cavaliers are not equipped to win the championship. I think the Cavaliers are in trouble if they face either one of these teams in the NBA Finals, and that's probably what will happen. I think it'll come down to these two teams. I do think he's playing with their psyche. He's saying, well, if we lose, it doesn't matter. We didn't have Tim Duncan. If we won, hey, we beat you without Tim Duncan. Yeah. I think LaMarcus Aldridge is going to go off tonight because now you got the Spurs. They're a bigger team. So now who's going to win the dominance of this? Is it the smaller team or the bigger team? I'm going to pick the Warriors tonight, but they got 3 more games and a lot can happen.
Nuggets said they had to go 6-2 on this 8-game homestand. They're 4-3 now. What does it all mean?
Well, the Post, Chris Vinci gave me a story today that I think we're talking about. We're talking about the biggest 3 since Miami Heat had Dwayne Wade and Bosh and LeBron, according to the story in our paper. And I went, really, Gary? I mean, they've got some good young talent. They're not there. You've said, and you're absolutely right. They've lost Denver. And nobody pays attention to hockey or basketball anyway until after the Broncos season's over. So it's going to be pushed back for a couple of weeks. And that bothers the Avs and the Nuggets. They want people to come see them. The Rockies are hoping that the Broncos play for another 3 months and they can not be paid attention to. Well, we haven't forgotten about you, Rockies, but the Nuggets, they're not going to make. You guys that keep saying, well, 39, 38, they're not going to win 39 or 38.
Basketball insiders like to say that Gary Harris, it's become very trendy to say Gary Harris is a player. Gary Harris is not a starter on a team that's any good. Get it into your head now. He's a contributor, but he's a big 3? What? Come on.
The Rockies are talking with Giovanni Gallardo. Gallardo, not Galarraga, not Dolinari, yeah. Gallinari. There's a guy that I kind of wanted them to get a couple of years ago. Yeah. That seems to be their trend, is they get somebody like 2 or 3 years after they should, like Parra. I thought they should have gotten him 2 or 3 years ago. Can he be their ace? Will he sign? Will he want to save them? Will he be interested in coming here? There's a couple other teams interested in him.
Giovanni, if you want to win games and you want to have a columnist praise you, probably shouldn't come here.
I think the most important thing that bothers me is the Rockies do not get it into their heads. They think they can go compete for a guy like this. He'd be a number 2, 3 starter on teams. From the very beginning, you and I have told them, you have to overpay. You have to vastly overpay. Well, they think they're competing on an even level with the Padres or a team, the Dodgers, that has a big ballpark. You've got to overpay. You've got to pay twice for it. You've got to go to David Price and say, we'll give you $200 million. And they don't get that. They do not get it.
Super Bowl coming up. Should the Broncos slogan be win one for Peyton or win one for Pat?
I think it's for both. I think that's what I'd go with. I might even throw DeMarcus Ware in there, given what he's done. But I think it should be, if you're looking at slogans, I don't like, but I think, based on this one's for John kind of thing, that win it for Peyton, and DeMarcus going to have another chance. This is the last roundup for Peyton. He's not coming back. Everything that he's done, he said goodbye. He said goodbye to Denver last night. He may not have done it like walked around the thing, but he said goodbye. And I've been told by people that are very close to him, and I was with one of them Friday night, this is it. He's not going to announce it. He doesn't want to get in the way of stuff. This is it. Win one for Pat. I also know from what happened is they took the trophy to Pat. I wrote about this today. They took the trophy to Pat last night, and his condition is deteriorating. And I'm not sure. This is not what I was told. But based on what I was told, he didn't know they played.
Okay, that's tough to hear. But Pat, this team wouldn't be what it is today without Pat Bowlen. We all know that.
The league probably wouldn't be what it is without Pat Bowlen. He had that kind of profound effect. This segment brought to you by John Elway. No, I'm sorry. No, this segment is brought to you by Citywide Banks, and I don't represent many people, but I love representing Citywide Banks because they're family-owned, Colorado-focused business bank with 12 locations, and I love doing business. I have my bank accounts over there. I like going by on the one at Hamden. Kind of fits what they're all about. It's a 2-story building. There's a lot of good people with friendly faces, happy smiles. They want to shake your hand. It's not because of me. They don't know who I am. They just seem like the old mom and pop grocery store that actually wants to do good business with you. Citywide Banks.
I am Citywide Banks.
I am Citywide Banks.
At Citywide Banks,
we put you first by exceeding your service expectations every day.
Every day.
When you go to buy a car, what do you really want? You probably want a lot of cars to choose from. And you want the dealership's best price. Not some starting price or target price, the best price. And you want it immediately, not after hours of negotiating. And you want a salesperson who doesn't get paid more if you spend more. Because, well, you don't want to spend more. Well, you're in luck. John Elway wants all of those things too. Better yet, John Elway wants you to have all of those things too. Come see us or click on johnelwaychevrolet.com.
Well, today is a special edition of Madison's Mailbag. She's still got her makeup on from her party celebration last night, and if you look very closely, the great sparkly eyes. They kind of give them a little, oh, there you go. What do you got for us?
Our first,
nicely done.
Thank you. Our first tweet today is from P. Guatana07, and he wants to know, what's your opinion on P. King's Monday morning quarterback assessment of Lynch having a better Hall of Fame resume than Davis?
That's Peter King. He was here last night. He wrote the Monday morning quarterback piece today, and he kind of touches on every subject from coffee to stuff. No, Lynch is one of the best safeties of all time. Steve Atwater, I think, might be better than him, and Steve Atwater's over. I saw Steve Atwater's entire career except 1 year, I think. And Lynch, I thought, was a very hard-hitting. Terrell Davis was a unique player in the history of the NFL. There's been very few to go over 2,000 yards. For a period of 5 years, he was better than anybody else as a running back. 2,000 yards, MVP in the Super Bowl. He has a better resume.
This is what I take out of it. I think that John Lynch and Terrell Davis are both deserving of the Hall of Fame. I think they will both get in the Hall of Fame, but John Lynch will get in first.
John Lynch is going to get in this year. Steve Atwater's kind of drifted into memory, and Terrell's not there yet.
Perfect. And then our last tweet that we selected from today was from KMWR Sports Talk.
I think it's Mrs. Sports
Talk. Mr. Sports Talk. But they want to know, how is Wade Phillips going to keep Cam Newton contained? He's a lot more mobile than Tom Brady.
Well, they got to the scariest question first about this Super Bowl, didn't they? So salute to you. I don't know. Do you spy Cam Newton with, say, a Brandon Marshall? How do you do it? I think you have to put a spy on Cam Newton.
I want him to run.
You want Cam to run?
I want him to run. I kind of follow the theme of don't let him pass. He rushed yesterday 57 yards. Is that going to beat you?
Probably not.
No. Let him run Did Gronk beat you with 144 yards? No.
Almost.
But he didn't. So, I mean, I don't have spies on him. That's wasting, because they've got a good running team. They're not a bad running team like what we just saw. So I don't waste a guy spying on him. What I do is say, he's going to get his running. I do like I did against What they did against Aaron Rodgers is rush up field, so he doesn't go outside. If he's going to run, make him run into a mess that's in the middle. So I'm talking 2 weeks out, but that's let him get his 100. Get him 100 yards. Let him get 1 or 2 touchdowns rushing. That's not what's going to beat you in the game. What's going to beat you in the game? I just said, if you can't score 24 to 28 points or maybe 30 points, that's what's going to get you beat in the game. You better come out with a better offense because the defense is going to be fine. He will give up somewhere south of 30 points. You got to score points in this game. Thank you, Madison.
Thanks, guys.
Madison Faulkner on our way to San Francisco. So be in San Francisco because she'll be coming with makeup and sparkly eyes and outfits like you can't believe. Mailbag sponsored by John Elway Chevrolet on South Broadway.
When you go to buy a car, what do you really want? You probably want a lot of cars to choose from. And you want the dealership's best price. Not some starting price or target price, the best price. And you want it immediately, not after hours of negotiating. And you want a salesperson who doesn't get paid more if you spend more. Because, well, you don't want to spend more. Well, you're in luck. John Elway wants all of those things too. Better yet, John Elway wants you to have all of those things too. Come see us or click on johnelwaychevrolet.com.
Pick 6, and we need to know the 6 things the peeps must do in the Bay Area during Super Bowl week.
Well, people need to start thinking about what they're doing. So the reason for the question was, start making your plans, make reservations, do this stuff. Number 6 for me is go to the wharf and barf. No, I'm kidding about the barf part. No, go to the wharf. You've done this. Have the clam chowder in the bread bowl. They have the great sourdough bread.
Yes.
You can sit outside by that little stand, and you can order it. You can sit over there and have great clam chowder, and you can then eat the bowl.
Number 5 is a major upset for you.
In-N-Out Burger. I'll be doing that. Me and Dane will be doing a lot of that during In-N-Out Burger. Animal style. Get it animal style. They cook it in mustard. The onions are grilled. And sit there with all the rest of the people and just eat yourself to death. Number 4, speaking of eat at Stinkin' Rose. I'm making reservations for Stinkin' Rose. There's nothing. It's a great restaurant in San Francisco, and there's nothing on the menu that is not loaded in garlic. And so everybody in your party better eat garlic. And so, see, Dane, you can go there. You don't have to have seafood. Number 3, NFL Experience. They're calling it Super City. It's downtown by the Moscone Convention Center. I first went there when there was a Democratic convention when Gary Hart was running for president. And it's right in the middle of all the action, and there'll be the NFL Experience. And I think everybody should experience the NFL Experience. Number 2, Alcatraz. We talked about this over the weekend. If you haven't done it, go out to Alcatraz. I mean, it's a
nice swim.
It's a well, we don't know because the people who escaped may or may not have made it, but I think it's a part of American lore. Al Capone, Birdman of Alcatraz. It's worthy of seeing it. And you think about those prisoners, and they go, man, San Francisco's just right there. I could swim over there. Number 1, drive down Lombard Street and touch the Lombardi Trophy. It's not the bottom of Lombard Street, but I'm using the names there. They'll have the Lombardi Trophy at the NFL Experience. You can go touch it. Have you ever driven down Lombard Street?
Yes, I have. I've driven down it. I've walked it down it. I've run up it. I've done the Lombard Experience. So that's on my list. My list is a little more frivolous than yours. Number 6, go to Chinatown. There's a great kite store there. Go buy a kite, take it to a park by the bay, and fly a kite. Number 5, hang with the ghost of Joe DiMaggio.
Never done this.
At the Tattaged Grill. Yeah. The Tattaged Grill, seafood. I know some members of your staff don't like seafood, but it's the original seafood-looking restaurant, and all the greats in the history of San Francisco have eaten.
Didn't his parents or his father have a restaurant down there?
Yes, he did.
It wasn't that one.
It was not that one. Number 4, throw a Frisbee on the Cal Berkeley campus. If you want to go back to the 70s, go to Cal Berkeley. 60s. Bring your Frisbee. And you know where they got the idea for legalized weed in Colorado.
And that's where Frisbee throwing sort of started, really, in the 60s.
Stroll Sausalito with your date. Fellas, if you're airlifting your significant other to the Super Bowl, Do one afternoon in Sausalito.
Yeah.
It will be good for you. Number 2, catch a concert at the Fillmore. It's a classic concert hall, and I've been there many times, and I would highly recommend it. And number 1, either bike or walk across the Golden Gate Bridge. Bundle up. Can be a little cold, but everybody knows the Golden Gate Bridge.
And
Go across it.
I'll tell you something not to do. Don't get really drunk like somebody that's really close to me, not you. Somebody really very close to me, close as my heart, and go across the Golden Gate Bridge with a bunch of people, and you're drunk, and you throw a beer bottle off Golden Gate Bridge. That's not a good idea, because you usually won't make it to the water. It usually hit all that girder stuff.
Oh, okay.
So that was one of my regrets in life. You can watch the show. We have an iTunes podcast. You can see us on Facebook. You can see us on our own YouTube channel. You can go to woodypage.com. You can go to markkiszla.com, and there's nothing there. You can go to denverpost.com. Well, you don't have a markkiszla.com. You should have one. You can join me.
I don't have the staff you do, buddy.
You can go to woodypage.com, and it'll lead you everywhere. But you can go to denverpost.com and watch it on demand, see the clips and all the stories. They're doing a great job of putting clips of what he says in the stories. Every time I punch on a story, I see a clip of ours right now. Doing a great job. We have a great full week ahead of you as we lead off to San Francisco next week. And we will join you again tomorrow on The Sports Show with Mark and Woody on denverpost.com. Stay tuned for Molly Hughes with a news upbreak.
Breakout. Update.
Hello, I'm Molly Hughes in the Denver Post newsroom. Imagine a city where all the homes run on solar power, everyone walks to work, light rail is just steps from your home, loaner bikes are racked up, and if you need to drive, electric cars are available to borrow. That is the goal as Denver becomes home to a new smart city experiment planned for an area near Denver International Airport. It's part of a public-private partnership with Panasonic Enterprise Solutions, which is moving its headquarters to Denver this summer. The smart community will be called Peña Station Next, an entire community designed after Fujisawa, Japan, a sustainable, high-tech city that aims to keep people and the environment healthy. The 400-acre development is designed so people can walk to work or take light rail. Certain aspects of the plan in Fujisawa would not fly in America because of cultural differences, like facial recognition technology so that it's used to help police solve crimes. That wouldn't work here, but modifications will be made to cater to the American mindset. For example, there's talk to have street lights dim when no one's around. Housetops would be covered with solar panels that power the home, and battery power would kick in at nighttime. Sustainable construction, wireless internet, shops, restaurants, health and fitness centers, and playgrounds are all part of this cohesive plan. If people need cars, this project would not be considered a success. So that puts it in perspective. Planners say the multifamily housing project is expected to start this summer.
When you go to buy a car, what do you really want? You probably want a lot of cars to choose from. And you want the dealership's best price. Not some starting price or target price, the best price. And you want it immediately, not after hours of negotiating. And you want a salesperson who doesn't get paid more if you spend more. Because, well, you don't want to spend more. Well, you're in luck. John Elway wants all of those things too. Better yet, John Elway wants you to have all of those things too. Come see us or click on johnelwaychevrolet.com.